Mission Impossible films ranked from worst to best. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is a different pace for me. Usually nagre-review lang ako ng movies, and this is my very first ranking video. So yeah, it's exciting for me. And I'm all the more excited to do this because of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which drops in theaters here in the Philippines this Wednesday. So I'm so excited for that. That is actually one of my top film that I'm excited for to drop for 2023. So yeah, this is one of my favorite franchises, and this is going to serve as a disclaimer as well that even though this is a ranking from worst to best, I find the franchise as a whole to be very exciting. Again, this is one of my favorite franchises out of everything, to be honest. One of them, and it's one that I don't get tired of watching over and over again from start to finish. So it's kind of difficult to make the list, to make the rankings. But so I don't become redundant and repeat it over and over again, I just love all of them. So let's get down to the rankings. On the number 6 spot is Mission Impossible 2. There are certain things about this film that I felt was just too cliche. This film had that whole biological threat, and it's something that I feel like I've seen time and time again in other action flicks. In my opinion, this is the film that didn't really have a shining moment that made me go wow. That being said, I also feel like this is the film that kind of transitioned the whole MI franchise into being really into the impossible. The previous film was more of an espionage spy thriller kind of movie. This one was really diving into the impossible, to the action sequences. There are not so many moments that are memorable in this film, and as a whole, it is kind of forgettable. I mean, for me, the iconic scenes or the things that I remember the most is the beginning and end of this, and everything else is just a blur at times, but it's still very integral in how it transitions the whole spy film to an all-out action movie. On the number 5th spot is Mission Impossible. Yes, the first film. One of my biggest concerns is how predictable it is. Despite it trying to confuse its viewers, its audience, with twist after twist, by the first third of the film, you kind of figure out already where it's going, who are the baddies, who's the villain. It has the iconic Tom Cruise, rappelling from the ceiling and his sweat dropping. But everything else felt it was a bit slow in my opinion, and it goes big towards the end. But I think that's great. I mean, it's great action sequences towards the end, but everything else was just plain for me. Number 4 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and I feel like this is where the tension is gonna come in. What? Rogue Nation is actually a pretty good film. I agree, Rogue Nation is good, but on the bigger scale of things, as you look at the MI films in a bigger view or bigger perspective, it's not the top film. This is where things are going to be a bit, debatable. But in my opinion, it's a good setup for what the future will hold. I feel like it was a good sandwich between two films, but I also felt like it was the most, the vehicle to make things even more grand. It has a good villain or antagonist. I mean, Solomon Lane is a very big threat in the MI universe. But again, here, there were some moments that just died down for me. The biggest moment I loved about this film was the underwater scene and that chase scene right after. But everything else, especially towards the end, the ending for me wasn't all that great. It felt very underwhelming. It felt like just a chase, and the resolution of it all was just too quick, was just too simple. Number 3 is Mission Impossible 3. And this is actually the MI film that I first saw in the cinema. From the beginning to the end, there's just suspense. This is the most suspenseful film there, in my opinion. It's the best attempt to unite the espionage world and the action-packed scenes. Now, the action-packed scenes as well here may be a bit toned down. It's not the spectacle that we'll get to know eventually in the next films to come. The restraint for this film was just perfect. The highlight for me, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Hands down, one of the best villains in the MI franchise to date. There's no comparison to how creepy, how eerie, how diabolical he was and it was still one of my favorite villains up until today. The whole masking sequences, this I think was the one that mastered it the most, that made those sequences exciting. The latter parts of this film was just like at the edge of your seat. You don't know what's gonna happen. It was just suspense after suspense. It was just like you were hanging on to figure out what was going to happen next. Okay, we're going down to the wire. Number 2 is, and you'll figure out that obviously what number 1 is, but number 2 is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I actually had a hard time choosing between this and the number 1 spot. This is a movie that has so many moments, individual moments, that is so memorable. I also love the team composition this time around. I love, Jeremy Renner, Sean Pegg, the girl here. That I think it was the best team that we've had in any Mission Impossible film. There's individual moments that just kept setting the bar higher and higher. You had the Kremlin scenes, the Burj Khalifa ba yun? And then you had that parking sequence. There was no lagging moment. There was no boring bone in this movie. Everything was just getting better and better and better. The stakes continued to go higher and higher. So I just love this movie. But obviously, another film beat it. On the number 1 spot is Mission Impossible Fallout. Just the last film, the most recent film. It was, in a way, simple enough. There were moments that it was exhilarating and action-packed. There were just so many elements that I loved about Rogue Nation, that I loved about Mission Impossible 3, about Mission Impossible 2, that they felt like they put together here. It redeemed the ending sequence of Mission Impossible 2. This was a film that did it better. I felt like this was a movie that did everything better and better. The suspense elements in Mission Impossible 3, it was done better here in Fallout. The moments with Solomon Lane coming in, it was a way to redeem and bring back Solomon Lane from Rogue Nation. And that's why I feel like I myself, as a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise, I'm at the edge of my seat when it comes to Dead Reckoning Part 1. And with the success of Fallout, with the success of how they were even able to create such a dastardly amazing villain in Henry Cavill, who I felt initially wasn't going to do the job justice, but he did. I feel like they can do anything. Even though this is the Mission Impossible films, anything is possible when we watch Dead Reckoning Part 1. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my very first ranking video. If you did, well, even if you didn't, comment down below, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're up to date whenever I drop a video here on the channel. As always, don't forget to make every day into an adventure. God bless, guys, and stay safe.